the capsule in the sand. The storm had passed sometime before dawn, leaving Red Mesa half buried in silence. I was running perimeter sweep alone, standard procedure when command wanted eyes on the ruins but didn't want to waste a squad on ghosts. The city had been glassed months ago. Nothing living was supposed to be left. That's when I saw it. A sliver of metal beneath the sand. Too smooth, too clean. Not scrap, not wreckage. Intact. I should have logged it and moved on. Instead, I dropped to my knees and started digging. The capsule was about the size of a coffin, obsidian black, etched with symbols that shimmered faintly under the twin suns. No known registry. No human design. It hummed beneath my touch, low and steady, like a heartbeat. Then I heard it. Please, don't open it. I froze. The voice was thin, trembling, female, and inside the capsule. I scanned the horizon. Empty. Who's in there? I asked. Silence. Then softer. If you break the seal, you will bind yourself to me. You will regret it. I've been in the military long enough to recognize a trap. Long enough to know when curiosity gets you killed. But something in her voice wasn't manipulation. It was fear. I'm already regretting a lot of things, I muttered, and slid my blade into the seam. The capsule hissed as the lock split open. Inside, curled in pale blue light, was a woman. Not human. Her skin shimmered silver blue, faint circuitry glowing beneath it. Her hair fell like liquid starlight over sharp, elegant features. And when her eyes opened, bright, luminous violet, they locked onto mine. Ancient, terrified, powerful. I warned you, she whispered. I offered her my hand anyway. That's the moment my life stopped being simple. And the moment I rescued an alien queen from a desert capsule, whether I understood it or not. When her fingers touched my hand, I expected cold metal or static, something artificial. What I felt instead was a pulse. Not against my skin, inside my chest. It was subtle at first, like stepping too fast and feeling your heartbeat shift. Then it deepened. A second rhythm layered beneath my own. Not replacing it, not fighting it, just sinking. The woman in the capsule inhaled sharply. Her grip tightened. You should not have done that, she said, and her voice was stronger now. Clearer, not trembling anymore. Yeah, I muttered. I get that a lot. Up close, she didn't look fragile. She looked contained, like something built to survive collapse. The circuitry beneath her skin pulsed in slow, deliberate waves, matching the strange new cadence in my chest. I am Lyra, she said. Ethan Hayes, Staff Sergeant. Her violet eyes narrowed slightly, studying me, not just visually. I could feel it, that awareness pressing lightly against my thoughts. Not invasive, not hostile, curious. You do not understand what you have initiated, she said quietly. Try me. She shifted inside the opened capsule, wincing slightly as if her muscles had forgotten movement. I didn't realize I was steadying her until she leaned into me. Her weight was lighter than I expected. The seal was not merely imprisonment, she said. It was containment. Protection. For you. For others. That wasn't comforting. What are you? I asked. Her gaze lifted to the horizon beyond Red Mesa's ruins. I am Queen Designate of the Aerith Dominion, she said. Engineered to bond with a chosen protector. To amplify their strength. To share their burden. To ensure they never face death alone. A strange chill ran through me. Engineered how? She looked back at me. The first being who breaks the seal becomes my bonded. A pause. You. The second heartbeat in my chest pulsed harder. Okay, I said carefully. Define bonded. Her fingers were still wrapped around mine. I hadn't let go. I wasn't sure why. Our nervous systems synchronize. Our pain thresholds merge. Physical trauma is partially redistributed. Emotional states bleed across the connection. Power flows both directions. I stared at her. That sounds medically concerning. It is permanent. There it was. Permanent. I should have felt panic. Instead, what I felt was something else. Her fear. It wasn't overwhelming. It was a low current beneath my own emotions. Steady, controlled, but unmistakable. You're afraid, I said. Her eyes widened slightly. Yes. Of me? No. She shook her head once. Of repeating history. I didn't like the sound of that. What history? She hesitated. I felt the hesitation through the bond. A tightening sensation behind my ribs. I was bonded before. The air between us shifted. And I asked. And I chose wrong. Something inside her flickered. Not circuitry, emotion, regret. You said engineered. I pressed. So what happens now? I glow. I lift tanks. What? A faint, almost disbelieving breath escaped her. It might have been the beginning of a laugh. You will feel stronger, more focused. Reaction times will increase. Your resilience will grow. And you? I will survive. There was weight in that answer. The wind picked up across the dunes, carrying dust through the broken skyline of Red Mesa. I became aware of how exposed we were. We need to move, I said. There's a forward base 20 clicks east. You intend to bring me to your military? Unless you'd prefer I rebury you. Her jaw tightened slightly. I told you not to open the capsule. And I didn't listen. A faint pulse of something brushed against my mind. Annoyance. You are reckless. Occupational hazard. She studied me again, more intently this time. I felt it, like cool fingers brushing across the surface of my thoughts. You carry fatigue deeper than your body, she murmured. That's not psychic. That's war. She didn't argue. Instead, she stepped fully out of the capsule. Her movements were slow at first, adjusting to gravity, balance. The circuitry beneath her skin flared softly and then stabilized. The moment both her feet touched sand, the pulse in my chest intensified. It wasn't painful. It was anchoring, as if something had locked into place. Lyra inhaled sharply. The bond has stabilized, she said. That fast. You have unusually high neural compatibility. That a compliment? Yes. I blinked. That's new. She took a cautious step toward the open desert. Then she stumbled. I caught her without thinking. The moment my arm wrapped around her waist, the sensation hit fully. Not just her fear, her exhaustion, her isolation. Centuries. It slammed into me in flashes. Darkness, silence, containment. Being sealed away not just physically but emotionally. Designed for connection, denied it for ages. I staggered under the weight. What the hell was that? I breathed. You felt it. That wasn't just an emotion. No, she whispered. It was memory. We stood there, locked together, wind howling across the dunes. You said pain redistributes. I said slowly. What about death? She went very still. If one of us dies, she said carefully, the other does not survive long. The desert suddenly felt much bigger. And you didn't lead with that? You would not have opened the capsule. She wasn't wrong. Why warn me at all? I asked. Because consent matters. The answer caught me off guard. You could have just stayed silent. I am engineered, she said softly. But I am not without will. Something in that sentence settled deep. Okay, I said after a long moment. So we're linked. Shared pain. Shared strength. Shared fatal consequences. Yes. And you're a queen. Yes. And someone sealed you in the desert. Yes. Do I get to know who and why? Her violet eyes darkened. You will, she said. But not here. I glanced back at the empty capsule, already half buried again by drifting sand. What happens to that thing? It will remain dormant. It cannot bond twice. Good, I muttered. One existential attachment is enough. Lyra's lips curved faintly. You are calmer than most. Shock hasn't hit yet. It has. The bond pulsed softly in agreement. I exhaled slowly. All right, Lyra, I said. Welcome to the worst vacation of your life. She looked toward the rising suns. No, she said quietly. This is the first moment I have not been alone. The words landed heavier than they should have. I adjusted my rifle and started walking east. She matched my stride within minutes. Every step we took, I could feel her awareness beside mine. Not inside my head, not controlling, just present. Like a second shadow stitched to my spine. I rescued an alien queen from a desert capsule. And somehow, without fully realizing it, I had tied my fate to hers. Whether that was salvation or disaster, I was about to find out. If you've watched this far, then this story is really interesting to you. Please confirm it by clicking like under this video. It doesn't cost you anything, but it will help me understand what story to publish for you next. Write in the comments who the alien woman in this story looks like, and who you would like to see in the next one. Let's move on. By the time Fort Orion came into view, the sun was bleeding out behind the ridgeline, staining the sky in copper and ash. Lyra walked beside me without speaking, her stride steadier now. The faint glow beneath her skin had dimmed to a soft pulse, barely visible under the desert light. If someone saw us from a distance, they might have mistaken her for human. Up close, not even close. The outer perimeter turrets tracked us immediately. Identify, crackled through my calm. Staff Sergeant Ethan Hayes. Returning from perimeter sweep. I'm not alone. A pause. Define not alone. I glanced sideways at Lyra. First contact, I said. Silence. Then, repeat. You heard me. Within 30 seconds, the gate defense grid shifted into active configuration. Heavy plating retracted. Motion sensors recalibrated. The moment we stepped through the outer barricade, 6 rifles were aimed directly at Lyra's chest. She didn't flinch, but I felt it. A flicker of defensive calculation beneath her calm. Stand down, I snapped. Captain Morales pushed through the soldiers, jaw tight. What the hell is that, Hayes? She has a name. I didn't ask for a name. Lyra, I said firmly. The soldiers shifted uneasily. Lyra's eyes moved slowly across them. Not threatening, not reactive. Assessing. Morales stepped closer. Sergeant, you're going to explain to me why you walked in here with an alien asset without clearance. She's not an asset. She's not staying. That landed harder than I expected. She's under my protection, I said. Morales laughed once. Sharp. That's not how this works. Behind me, Lyra finally spoke. Your command structure prioritizes containment over cooperation. Every rifle lifted slightly higher. Shut her up, one of the soldiers muttered. Don't, I said quietly. Morales stared at her. You speak English? Yes. How? She glanced at me briefly. Bond integration accelerates linguistic acquisition. Morales blinked. Bond. I felt it before she said it. The subtle tightening in my chest. He opened my capsule, Lyra said calmly. We are bound. The word hung in the air like a live charge. Morales looked at me. You touched alien tech? Yes. Hayes. It's done. Behind Morales, Lieutenant Keller stepped forward, eyes narrowed. This is a security breach. Before I could answer, something shifted in Lyra. It wasn't visible. It was felt. A ripple. Cold. Focused. Her gaze locked onto Keller. You, she said softly. Every soldier stiffened. What about me? Keller snapped. Lyra tilted her head slightly. Your pulse rate has elevated disproportionately to perceived threat level. So, you are not afraid of me. Why would I be? You are afraid of being discovered. The courtyard went silent. Keller's hand tightened on his rifle. Morales looked between them. Discovered for what? Lyra's voice didn't rise. You transmitted our patrol routes 3 nights ago. My stomach dropped. What? Keller's face flushed. That's insane. You accessed a secondary relay tower outside authorized protocol. Lyra continued. You erased the log. Enough, Keller barked. No, Morales said sharply. You don't get to decide that. I felt it through the bond. Lyra's perception wasn't guesswork. It was certainty. She wasn't reading his thoughts. She was reading intent. And Keller's intent right now was violent. His rifle twitched. I moved before he did. But Lyra was faster. Her skin flared white. Not bright, just sharp. The rifles aimed at her wavered. Keller's weapon fell from his hands like it had been ripped away by gravity itself. He staggered back, clutching his head. I did not harm him, Lyra said evenly. I suppressed hostile action. Medics rushed forward. Morales turned slowly toward Keller. Is it true? Keller's jaw clenched. Then cracked. I didn't have a choice, he spat. The Ketheri promised extraction. Safe passage. By giving them our coordinates? Morales' voice went deadly quiet. You don't understand what's coming, Keller hissed. I felt Lyra's perception widen. He believes they would spare him, she said quietly. They would not. Security hauled Keller away in restraints. The courtyard remained frozen. Morales exhaled slowly. You just saved this base, he said to Lyra. She shook her head slightly. I prevented a predictable outcome. He looked at me. You bonded to that. Yeah. And you didn't think to mention it? Didn't have time. Morales rubbed his temples. Command's going to want her in containment. The bond tightened. Not fear. Expectation. I won't allow that, I said. That's not your decision. She saved your base. She exposed a traitor, Morales corrected. That doesn't mean she walks free. Lyra stepped forward slightly. I will not submit to imprisonment again. The word again landed heavy. Morales studied her. Again. Her eyes darkened. I was sealed for refusing to abandon a bonded. There it was. First hint of the past. Morales glanced at me. You understand the implications here? Yes. You're willing to stake your career on this. I felt Lyra's attention shift toward me. Waiting. Not commanding. Just waiting. Yes, I said. Morales exhaled sharply. Temporary housing. Restricted movement. She does not enter operational command without clearance. Understood. And Hayes? Yeah. If this goes sideways, it's on you. It already is. As the courtyard dispersed, I walked Lyra toward the inner corridor. You knew? I murmured. Yes. About Keller? Yes. How? I detect violent intention before it manifests. The bond enhances clarity. So you'll always know if someone's about to pull a trigger. Yes. That's useful. Yes. We reached the barracks wing. The fluorescent lights reflected faintly off her skin. You defended me, she said quietly. Of course I did. You risked status, position, security. Already did worse opening that capsule. She studied me. You do not calculate outcomes traditionally. That a diplomatic way of calling me reckless? Yes. I snorted softly. Inside my quarters, I shut the door. Silence settled. The base hummed around us. Distant machinery, boots in corridors, controlled tension. You felt Keller's intent before he moved? I said. Yes. Could you have killed him? Yes. Why didn't you? Her gaze held mine steadily. You prefer restraint. I blinked. You made that call based on me? The bond informs decision-making. So you're adjusting your actions to match my moral baseline. Yes. That's intimate. The word hovered unspoken. Lyra stepped closer. When I was sealed, she said quietly, it was because I refused to allow my bonded to die alone. I surrendered instead of fulfilling my designated function, which was to amplify his final strike, to ensure mutual termination. You were designed to die with him. Yes. And you refused. Yes. The bond pulsed warmly. Approval. Good, I said. She tilted her head slightly. You do not see that as weakness? No, I said firmly. I see it as choice. The faintest shift crossed her expression. Something lighter. You are not like the previous, she murmured. Should I be worried about that? No. Silence lingered. Through the bond, I felt something new. Not fear. Not calculation. Something fragile. Relief. You saved my unit today, I said. You opened my prison. Doesn't mean we're even. She stepped closer still. No, she agreed softly. We are not even. For the first time since the desert, I realized something clearly. I hadn't just brought an alien queen to Fort Orion. I had shifted the balance of this entire base. And somewhere beneath the tactical implications, something far more personal was beginning to take root. 3 days after Lyra exposed Keller, Command finally let me take her outside the wire. Officially, it was a reconnaissance sweep through the Ashfall Canyons. Routine patrol, 6-hour loop, confirmed no Ketheri forward movement. Unofficially, Command wanted to see what she could really do, and I wanted to know the same thing. The Ashfall Canyons earned their name from the gray sediment that constantly drifted down from the volcanic ridges above. It coated everything: armor, rifles, skin. It turned the world into shades of bone and smoke. Lyra walked beside me in desert camo I'd scavenged from storage. It didn't quite fit her frame, and the fabric couldn't hide the faint luminescence beneath her skin, but from a distance, she passed well enough. You are tense, she said quietly as we moved along the canyon wall. I'm always tense. More than baseline. I adjusted my grip on my rifle. Because if something goes wrong out here, it's not just me paying for it. The bond warmed slightly. You assume responsibility too quickly. That's the job. We moved in silence after that. But beneath the quiet, I felt it, the subtle hum of her awareness expanding. It wasn't intrusive. It was like standing next to a radar system you couldn't see. Constant. Focused. Then she stopped walking. I froze immediately. What? Her head tilted slightly, eyes unfocused. 3 signatures, she murmured. Above us. 200 meters. Concealed. I scanned the ridge line. Nothing visible. Snipers. Observation first. Violence undecided. Can you tell if they'll shoot? Not yet. My pulse slowed deliberately. Okay, I breathed. Options. I can disrupt them. How? She didn't answer immediately. The bond tightened. Calculation. Risk. Non-lethal, she said finally. You prefer that. I do. Then stand behind me. Lyra, trust me. That word hit differently than it should have. Trust. I stepped back. She moved forward into the open canyon floor. My heart rate spiked. Every instinct screamed at me that this was tactically stupid. She raised one hand slowly. The patterns beneath her skin began to glow. Not blinding, controlled. White light traced along her arms, across her collarbone, down her neck. The air shifted. It felt like pressure building before a storm. A low hum vibrated through the canyon walls. Not audible exactly, but physical. I felt it in my teeth. Then the ridge above us fractured. Not exploded. Shifted. Precise sections of rock destabilized simultaneously. 3 armored figures tumbled from their perch, scrambling as their cover disintegrated beneath them. No blood. No screams. Just shock. They hit the canyon floor 30 meters away, disoriented but alive. Before they could regroup, Lyra's eyes flared brighter. Every Kethari soldier froze. Weapons clattered to the ground. I felt it through the bond. A surge of projected intent. Not pain. Certainty. A psychic broadcast that said, "You will not win this." They broke. All 3 scrambled backward and ran without firing a shot. The glow faded instantly. Lyra swayed. I caught her before she hit the ground. "That was not insignificant," she breathed. "Jesus," I muttered. "You dropped a sniper nest without firing." I removed their advantage. "That's more than advantage." She leaned slightly into me, stabilizing. Through the bond, I felt her exhaustion slam into me. Not crippling, but heavy. "You're drained," I said. "Yes." "Why didn't you say something?" "You required demonstration." I stared at her. "You're not a weapon." "I was built to be." "Well, we're not using you like one." Her violet eyes studied me carefully. "You disapprove of destruction." "I disapprove of unnecessary destruction." "Define necessary." "If they'd fired first, different conversation." She processed that. "I can calibrate force more precisely next time." "That's not what I meant." "What did you mean?" I hesitated. "You don't owe command performance." Her gaze softened slightly. "I owe you." The words landed heavier than gunfire. "You don't," I said firmly. "The bond. The bond isn't debt." Silence stretched between us. The canyon wind carried ash past our boots. Through the connection, I felt her confusion. "You contradict your species' hierarchical structure," she said. "Yeah, I do that." We started walking again. After a few minutes, she spoke. "My prior bonded preferred annihilation." My grip tightened on my rifle. "What happened?" "He was a commander during the siege of Halcyon Reach. Surrounded. Outnumbered. Terminal probability of survival. And he ordered me to amplify his final assault." "That would have killed you." "Yes." "But you refused." "Yes." "Why?" Her gaze drifted toward the canyon horizon. "Because he was afraid." "That's normal." "Not of death," she clarified. "Of being alone in it." The bond pulsed with old grief. "I told him I would stay," she continued quietly. "Not amplify. Not destroy. Stay." "What happened?" "I surrendered. I stopped walking." "And your empire?" "Declared deviation from design. Sealed me." Rage flickered inside me before I could suppress it. "They punished you for choosing compassion." "Yes." The canyon suddenly felt smaller. "Then they don't deserve you," I muttered. She looked at me sharply. "That is not how sovereignty functions." "Maybe it should." For the first time, I felt something new through the bond. Not exhaustion. Not fear. Not calculation. Admiration. It startled me. "You are inconsistent," she said softly. "I've heard that. You opened a sealed alien prison against warning." "Yep." "You defended me against your own command." "Yep." "You restrict my lethal potential while encouraging autonomy." "Sounds right." She stopped walking again. "You are not afraid of binding your fate to mine." I met her gaze steadily. "I was afraid before I met you." The air between us shifted. "That is different," she said. "Yeah," I agreed. "It is." We continued through ashfall canyons until dusk. No further ambushes. No gunfire. Just the steady presence of the bond humming quietly between us. By the time Fort Orion came back into view, something had changed. Command had wanted proof of her power. They got it. But what mattered more wasn't the display. It was this. She had chosen restraint, because she knew I valued it. And I realized something as we stepped back through the gates. Lyra wasn't just far more powerful than she appeared. She was choosing, every step, who she wanted to be. And for reasons I wasn't ready to name. She was choosing it with me in mind. The truth came out the night the power grid failed. Fort Orion went dark without warning. No alarms, no impact strikes, no artillery in the distance. Just a sudden, suffocating blackout that swallowed the base whole. Emergency lighting flickered red along the corridor walls. I was already awake. The bond had pulled me up seconds before the grid collapsed. Lyra was standing near the narrow window of my quarters, staring into the darkness outside. "They are not attacking," she said before I could ask. "Then what happened?" "Internal disruption. Mechanical, not hostile." I grabbed my sidearm anyway. "You felt it before it happened?" "Yes." "Why didn't you wake me sooner?" She didn't turn around. I was verifying. Verifying what? That it was not my fault. The answer stopped me. "What do you mean?" She finally faced me. The red emergency lights cut across her features, turning the circuitry beneath her skin into faint veins of shadow. "When systems fail around me, I am accustomed to being blamed." Something tightened in my chest, not from the bond. From anger. "That's not happening here. You do not control your command structure." "No," I said, "but I control how I respond to it." Footsteps thundered down the hall. Someone pounded on my door. "Hayes, Command wants you in operations now?" I opened it. Lieutenant Graves stood there, tense. "Backup," grid tripped. Someone tampered with the relays. "Keller, already in lockup." I glanced at Lyra. "Can you sense hostile intent inside the base?" She closed her eyes briefly. The bond flared faintly. "Fear," she said. "Suspicion. No immediate violence." We moved fast through the corridors toward command. The operations room was chaos. Engineers scrambling over holographic projections, Morales barking orders. When he saw Lyra, his jaw tightened instinctively. "Not now," he muttered. "Sir," I said sharply. "She can detect intent." He hesitated, then nodded once. "Fine, but if this spirals—" "It won't," I said. Lyra stepped into the center of the room. She didn't raise her hands this time. She just breathed. I felt her awareness expand through the bond like a ripple through still water. Not invasive, not searching thoughts, reading currents. "Sabotage originated in Maintenance Sector 3, she said quietly. But the intent was not betrayal. Morales frowned. "Explain." The technician believed he was following corrective protocol, which was instructions altered by external interference. One of the engineers snapped his head up. "That's impossible. Those systems are isolated." Lyra's eyes opened. "Your isolation is insufficient." Morales swore under his breath. "Trace it." Within minutes, they confirmed it. External signal injection, subtle, embedded weeks ago. A delayed cascade trigger. Someone had set Fort Orion up for systemic failure during the next major engagement. If the grid had collapsed during active combat, the base would have been slaughtered. Morales looked at Lyra slowly. "You detected that?" "Yes." "How?" "I was designed to interpret hostile systems as well as hostile minds." The room went quiet. "Designed," Morales repeated. Lyra's gaze didn't waver. "Yes." Later, after the grid was restored and the chaos settled, Morales pulled me aside. "Hayes," he said quietly, "what exactly is she?" "An ally." "That's not what I asked." I glanced toward Lyra standing alone near the far wall, posture composed but distant. "She was built to bond with warriors," I said. "To amplify them." "Built by who?" "Her empire." "And why was she buried in our desert?" I hesitated. Because I hadn't asked her directly. Not fully. That night, back in my quarters, I finally did. "Tell me everything," I said. Lyra sat across from me, hands folded loosely in her lap. "What do you wish to know? Why they sealed you?" Silence stretched. The bond shifted, not fear this time. Resignation. "My people, the Aerith Dominion, created Valkyrie-class queens to ensure military superiority," she began. "We were paired with elite commanders. Our bond enhanced their strength, reaction time, resilience. In return, we stabilized their emotional degradation during prolonged war." "So you were combat multipliers?" "Yes." "And disposable?" A faint flicker in her eyes. "Yes." The word hit like a blade. When a bonded faced inevitable death, protocol required amplification to maximum output. A final strike. Mutual termination. Symbolic unity. "That's barbaric." "It was efficient." "And you didn't comply?" "No." "What happened?" Her voice remained steady. "My bonded, Commander Eris Valen, was surrounded. Overwhelmed. He ordered full amplification. And I refused." The bond pulsed with old grief. "Why?" I asked quietly. "Because he did not want to die alone," she said. "He wanted someone to witness him." My throat tightened. "So you stayed?" "Yes." "And surrendered?" "Yes." "What happened to him?" "He was executed." The room felt smaller. And you? I was classified as deviant. Because you chose compassion. Because I disrupted strategic doctrine. I stood up abruptly, pacing. They punished you for choosing love. She looked at me sharply. It was not. It was, I cut in. You cared about him beyond function. Her silence confirmed it. They sealed you in a capsule. Yes. Why bury you on a frontier world? Distance, she said. Erasure. If no one bonded with me again, the deviation would not replicate. And if someone did, they assumed no one would. A bitter laugh escaped me. They underestimated humanity. Yes, she said softly. They did. I stopped pacing. You warned me not to open it. Yes. Because you didn't want this again. I did not want you to carry my burden. And now, she looked directly at me. Now I do not regret it. The bond warmed unexpectedly. You said the bond shares pain, I said slowly. What else? Strength, she answered. Clarity, emotional stabilization, and fate. Yes. I stepped closer. Is there anything you're not telling me? She hesitated, then nodded once. The bond deepens over time. How? It becomes voluntary. I frowned. What does that mean? At a certain threshold, the bond is no longer solely biological. Explain. It becomes choice. The word hung between us. If either bonded rejects it, she continued quietly, the connection weakens. And if both accept it, her voice softened. It strengthens beyond design. I felt it then, not the biological pulse. Something quieter, something that had been building since the desert. You stayed alive in that canyon because of the bond, I said. Yes. And because you wanted to. Yes. Silence wrapped around us. You were betrayed by your empire, I said. But you still believe in what you are. I believe in what I choose to be, she corrected. I stepped closer still. And what do you choose now? Her violet eyes held mine steadily. You. The word wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The bond flared, not painfully, brightly. For the first time, I understood something clearly. She wasn't just bound to me by accident. She was staying by choice. And whatever her empire had intended Valkyries to be, Lyra was becoming something else. Not a weapon, not a sacrifice. Something far more dangerous. Someone capable of loving beyond design. And for reasons I hadn't fully admitted to myself, I was beginning to feel the same. The fleet arrived at dawn. There was no dramatic prelude. No warning sirens rising in slow crescendo. Just a shadow passing over Red Mesa as the first Ketheri carrier cut through the upper atmosphere like a blade. I was on the east tower when the sky darkened. Contact confirmed. Graves shouted over comms. Multiple signatures. This isn't a raid. This is full deployment. Through the bond, I felt Lyra before I saw her. Focused. Still. Terrifyingly calm. The first orbital strike hit the outer barricades and turned 30 meters of reinforced plating into molten slag. Shockwaves rippled through the base. Soldiers scrambled. Turrets activated. But we all knew what we were looking at. Overwhelming force. They want the base intact, Morales growled in command. Disable power grids, choke supply lines, push inward. They're not here to scorch, I said. They're here to take. Through the bond, Lyra's awareness expanded outward, brushing against thousands of hostile signatures like fingertips grazing a sea of fire. 2047, she murmured. Ground units. Additional aerial support inbound. My stomach dropped. Can you disrupt them? Morales demanded. Lyra didn't answer immediately, because I already knew. She could, but not without cost. The perimeter fell within 3 hours. By midday, we were fighting in corridors. By sunset, we were cornered in the central command sector. Blood loss blurred my vision, but the bond kept me upright longer than I should have been. Every time pain threatened to take me under, it dispersed, shared. Lyra was absorbing part of it, and giving strength back. Evac transport is gone, Graves reported. Hangar breached. Morales looked at the tactical map, face gray. If they secure the reactor core, they'll hold Red Mesa permanently. High Command chimed in through static. Orbital sterilization is being considered. Consider, Morales barked. There are still 800 personnel inside this base. Acceptable loss, came the cold reply. Rage flared through me. Through the bond, I felt Lyra's reaction too. Not anger. Resolve. Ethan, she said quietly. I turned. Her eyes were steady. Too steady. No, I said immediately. You do not yet know what I intend. I know that look. The corridor shook with another impact. Ceiling fragments rained down. We do not have time for debate, she said softly. You're not doing this. Doing what? Sacrificing yourself. Her fingers brushed my arm. The bond flared. I felt what she was preparing. Scale. Range. A projection far beyond anything she'd attempted before. You'll burn out, I said. You barely survived the canyon surge. This will not be comparable. Exactly. She stepped closer. I can feel every hostile mind within the perimeter. Their coordination, their aggression. If I project fully, I can collapse their assault structure. Permanently. Permanently how? They will not rise again. My chest tightened. You're talking about killing 2,000 soldiers. I am talking about ending the invasion. That's not the same. Silence. Explosions shook the walls again. Ethan, she said quietly. If I do nothing, you die? Maybe. Not maybe. I have calculated trajectories. And if you do this? She didn't hesitate. My core will destabilize. That means I will not survive. The words sliced through me. No, I said again. She cupped my face gently. The gesture was soft, intimate. I was created to die for my bonded, she said. This is not tragedy. It is function. You're not a function. Her eyes shimmered faintly. You taught me that, she said. Another blast rocked the command center. Graves shouted, they're breaching inner doors. Lyra's grip on my face tightened slightly. I do not want to die, she whispered. The admission stunned me. But I will not watch you fall. I grabbed her wrists. You don't get to decide that alone. It is my life. And mine is tied to it. Yes. Then we decide together. She stared at me. Through the bond, I felt her conflict. Her instinct to protect. Her emerging will to choose something different. You believe there is another way, she said. I don't know, I admitted. But I refuse to let you throw yourself into oblivion because that's what your empire programmed. They are not here to reprogram me. I know, but that voice is still inside you. A beat. You think I am acting from design. I think you're acting from fear of losing me. Silence. Gunfire echoed closer. What if I am? She asked softly. Then we faced that fear together. Her gaze wavered. For the first time since the invasion began, uncertainty cracked her composure. Ethan, she said slowly, if I push the bond outward instead of inward, meaning I amplify not just myself. Who else? You. My pulse spiked. You want to channel it through me? Yes. That could kill me. Yes. Great plan. It distributes the strain. Or doubles it. She stepped back slightly, analyzing. We have minutes, she said. Then do it, I snapped. But not alone. Her eyes locked onto mine. You would risk death to keep me from dying? Yes. The bond ignited. Not painfully, powerfully. Her circuitry flared brilliant white. The air thickened. She placed her hands against my chest. Do not resist, she whispered. I won't. The moment she released the surge, it felt like lightning threading through my nervous system. Not burning, expanding. My awareness exploded outward. I felt them. All of them. 2,000 hostile minds locked in aggression. Fear. Momentum. Lyra's consciousness intertwined with mine. Together. Not weapon and wielder. Equal. The projection erupted. Not a destructive blast. A psychic collapse. Every Kethari soldier within range felt something tear through their coordination. An overwhelming wave of shared dread and futility. I felt Lyra anchoring the surge, stabilizing the output. I felt myself reinforcing her. We were burning through energy at impossible rates. My vision blurred white, but I refused to let go. Hold, she whispered inside my mind. I'm here. The hostile signatures faltered. One by one, they dropped weapons. Command channels broke. Formation disintegrated. The invasion stalled, then collapsed. Silence. When the surge finally dissipated, I hit the floor. Not dead, not unconscious. Alive. Barely. Lyra collapsed beside me. Through the bond, I felt her core flickering, but not extinguished. You're still here? I rasped. Yes, she breathed weakly. Outside, reports flooded in. They're retreating. Full withdrawal. Morales stared at the screens in disbelief. You two just shifted the war, he said. But I wasn't listening. I was focused on her. You didn't die, I whispered. You did not let me. Her hand tightened weakly around mine. For the first time since the fleet appeared, hope crept into the base. The war had tilted, not because a queen sacrificed herself, but because she chose to live. And I chose her with her. Whatever this bond had been designed for, we had just rewritten it. The war didn't end that day, but it changed. The Kethari fleet withdrew beyond orbital range within 48 hours. Recon confirmed fractured command structure, disrupted coordination, and, most telling, hesitation. They had faced something they didn't understand. So had we. Lyra remained in medical for 2 weeks. Not because she was dying, but because no one knew how to measure what she was anymore. I stayed with her anyway. The bond was quieter now. Not weaker, just steadier. Like it had settled into its true shape. One evening, long after the base lights dimmed to night cycle, she opened her eyes and found me still sitting beside her bed. "You should rest," she murmured. "So should you. I am not the one with unresolved trauma." I snorted softly. "You're not wrong." Silence stretched between us, not uncomfortable, just full. "I recalculated something," she said after a moment. "That sounds dangerous." Her lips curved faintly. "When I prepared to sacrifice myself, I believed it was necessity, design, obligation. And now, I realized I did not want to die. That's a good realization. It was not fear of death that stopped me," she continued quietly. "It was fear of leaving you." The words landed slow and deliberate. "You didn't stay alive because the bond demanded it," I said. "No. Then why?" She turned her head slightly, violet eyes steady on mine. "Because I wanted a future." "With me?" I asked. "Yes." No hesitation. No calculation. Just truth. I leaned back in the chair, exhaling slowly. "You know," I said, "when I opened that capsule, I thought I'd made the biggest mistake of my life." "You did." I blinked at her. She continued calmly. "You altered both our destinies." A small smile tugged at my mouth. "Do you regret it?" Her hand found mine. The contact sent a warm pulse through the bond. Not explosive, not overwhelming. Intentional. "No," she said softly. "Not for a single second." I squeezed her fingers. "They'll write reports about what you did," I said. "About how you collapsed an invasion. About how you repaid the soldier who freed you." "I did repay you," she replied. "Oh, yes. How?" She leaned closer, resting her forehead lightly against mine. "By choosing you." The simplicity of it cut deeper than any battlefield wound. Not power, not empire, not obligation. Choice. I rescued an alien queen from a desert capsule. And she repaid me, not with conquest or glory, but with something infinitely more dangerous. Her heart. For the first time in years, the future didn't feel like an endless war. It felt like possibility. And this time, we were both choosing it. Thank you for listening to this story to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Write in the comments what moment in this story impressed you the most. And also check out the other videos that just appeared on your screen. See you in the next video.